Boris Johnson has rejected calls to scrap the health charge for overseas NHS and social care workers.
The surcharge is currently £400 a year and will increase to £624 from October. Yesterday, the Prime Minister said the government needs the money.
Well, we're joined now by two former Conservative MPs with opposing views on this, Anne Widdecombe and Anna Soubry. Very good morning to you both. Anna Soubry, it seems remarkable that at a time when we are so grateful and value so much the work of those workers from overseas who've come to contribute to our NHS. In fact, Boris Johnson referred to two of them when his life was saved at St Thomas's Hospital, that we are charging them this surcharge. Is there any justification for it? He said it's useful when it comes to the £900 million that's raised.
It's not £900 million that it's raised. Look, when this was first introduced in 2015, and I was part of the coalition government that introduced it, it was £200. It was done for two reasons. Not to raise money for the NHS, by the way. It was done because, frankly, we needed some anti-immigration set of policies, because there's been this anti-immigration drumbeat, which I think is at best unfortunate. Actually, I think it's disgraceful, because senior politicians should be making the positive case for immigration, and we haven't done that for decades, and we're now paying the price for it. The other reason why it was introduced, and as I said, £200, £150 for students, was because there was a tiny, tiny number of people who were coming over here and clearly abusing our NHS.
Yes, but as you say, tiny numbers, and it was known as health tourism. But, I mean, it's, you know, compared to the contribution...
Well, the bottom line is...
But can I just ask, Anna Soubry, did you vote? You said it came in under the government that you were... in the party that you were there for. Did you vote for it?
Yes, and Susanna, I don't think it was controversial at the time.
Well, £200 surcharge is pretty controversial, I would have thought.
No, at the time it was accepted, and that is my point, that it was to satisfy this drumbeat that was essentially anti-immigration.
That you voted for?
Oh, yes, but I, at the time, had made the case. When it first was suggested, I was a health minister, and I thought it was a bad idea. And I was removed.
OK, well, look, Anna Soubry, you voted for it. Let's go to Anne Widdecombe.
Anne Widdecombe. I was removed from the task.
We need to bring Anne Widdecombe in before we run out of time. Anne Widdecombe, let me ask you, surely everything's changed, hasn't it? Whatever the merits of this may have been before all this, when you've got so many people coming to work in our health system who've been saving lives on an hourly basis, including our Prime Minister, Jenny from New Zealand, Lewis from Portugal, how can we in all good conscience turn to these people and say, right, we've been charging you £400 a year, we're now going to raise it to £624 a year. It's an absolute disgrace.
Well, that's exactly why the government has said that automatic renewals of visas will take place for a year without the charge for frontline workers. It's precisely because when this was passed in 2015, it was a very different situation from the one that we're now in with this emergency, and therefore the government has taken that measure. Even before the COVID-19 outbreak, the government had said it was looking at the possibility of a special NHS visa.
Well, actually, what the government did, Rishi Sunak in March, as this crisis began to develop, he was the one that announced it was raising to £624 in October. He was the one that decided the best way to respond to migrant workers in the NHS was to punish them for what they were doing. 181 NHS workers have now lost their lives, the majority of whom are migrant workers who've come from countries all over the world. And yet here we are telling the ones who are still going in on the front line, you know what, when this is all over, we're going to sting you for money. And Boris Johnson said yesterday, yeah, I know my life was saved by these people, but we need the money. It's wrong, Anne Widdecombe. It's wrong, Anne Widdecombe.
That is why the government has said that it is suspended and that visas would be automatically renewed for frontline workers for a year without this charge.
But they haven't cancelled it. Why don't they just scrap it, Anne Widdecombe? Why don't they just say, you know what, we've thought about this, it is wrong.
Piers, one that you did not criticise in the whole 5 years that it has actually been in. It does raise 900 million a year, that figure is correct, and that is ring-fenced for the NHS. Now, clearly, at the moment, we're in a different situation. That is why the government has introduced a temporary measure. It is said that it is keeping the whole business of the IHS charge under review.
Okay.
That seems to me to be a responsible response.
Yeah, I tell you what, I would love to have a conversation with Boris Johnson and Jenny from New Zealand and Lewis from Portugal as he explains to them how their reward for saving his life is going to be he's going to charge them another £224 a year. Anyway, thank you both very much.
They'll be able to renew for a year without charge.
Yeah, well, he hasn't cancelled it. He wants their money. Thank you both very much
thanks very much. Just to point out that these are workers who already pay tax and national insurance.
Of course,
so
it's
they are
completely outrageous. Everybody knows it's outrageous. But Boris Johnson to stand there and say, yeah, I know, I've been praising the NHS for weeks and they saved my life, but you know what, I'm going to sting them because we need their cash. People earning 20 grand a year need their cash. Yeah, we're going to squeeze them. Thanks, Boris.